Catastrophe for the armed forces of Ukraine in Velyka Novosilka. 5,000 soldiers plead with Zelensky to extract them from encirclement. Good day, dear friends. You are on the channel, Reports from the Field, where we continue to analyze the situation on the front lines daily. Together, we review maps, track advancements or retreats, and draw conclusions and forecasts about how various events will ultimately impact the broader frontline situation. As the year draws to a close, there is no progress for the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU, at the front. They are retreating in almost every sector, even in areas that had long remained static, such as Bilohorivka in the Siversk direction or Terny in the Lyman direction. Even there, Russian forces are now slowly advancing. Moreover, Ukraine's special operations have encountered significant challenges. For instance, yesterday in Moscow, the FSB detained an individual who was planning sabotage against a high-ranking official in the Ministry of Defense and an unnamed military blogger. This time, the FSB carried out its work flawlessly. Additionally, this morning news surfaced of another Ukrainian intelligence agent being detained. Now let's shift to the situation on the front line and examine the maps. We'll start with the area around Velyka Novosilka and then gradually move northward. Here, what we previously discussed has occurred. The AFU's defense was unable to withstand the assault after Russian forces captured Makarivka and Staromayorsk. For reference, the AFU had held back advances along the Huliaipol-Velyka Novosilka road for quite some time, impressive by the standards of the Ukrainian conflict. However, after Rivnopil came under Russian control, an offensive toward this road began. Analysts like Yuri Podolyaka and Rybar predicted that the remaining 5 to 6 kilometers to the road would be quickly overcome. At that time, this road wasn't yet a lifeline, as the AFU could still supply their garrison in Velyka Novosilka via 2 alternative routes. However, the Russian army eventually cut off those routes, making this road the primary supply line. Nevertheless, taking full control of the Huliaipol road proved challenging. For over a month, the AFU held their ground. However, a miscalculation by the AFU command, when they diverted forces to push Russian troops out of Novodonetsk, effectively sacrificing an entire company, led to weakened defenses on other fronts. Within a week, the AFU was pushed out of Makarivka and Staromayorsk. Russian forces then capitalized on this success and maintained pressure. Within 3 days, the remaining distance to the Lifeline Road was covered. The AFU retreated, and Russian forces now hold positions beyond the road. Russian forces have also captured several AFU strongholds, although the advance has paused for the moment. Reports suggest the AFU is urgently redeploying reserves to this sector, an entirely predictable move. De facto, the settlement of Velyka Novosilka is now encircled, with all access routes under Russian control. Attempts to push Russian forces back out of Novodonetsk have failed, as evidenced on the map. The settlement is under Russian control. At present, the AFU is likely focusing on efforts to break the encirclement of their garrison in Velyka Novosilka. Russian forces, meanwhile, are fortifying their positions, digging in, and preparing for the anticipated Ukrainian counterattack. Will the AFU succeed? I lean toward the second option, failure. The AFU is facing too many problems on other parts of the front, where reserves are also urgently needed. One such problematic area is the city of Kurakhove, where Ukrainian forces are facing enormous challenges. Notably, soldiers of the 114th Brigade are actively engaged in combat operations there. Let's continue. Now, what's happening in Kurakhove? For a long time, various Ukrainian military analysts claimed that the presence of Ukrainian forces in residential areas of Kurakhove was being maintained. However, I told you several days ago that this was not the case. The AFU has been pushed out of the residential quarters and retreated to the western part of the city, specifically to the industrial zone. Yesterday, footage from objective monitoring, a drone video, surfaced. It showed 3 Russian soldiers near the administrative building of the Kurakhove Thermal Power Plant, TPP. 2 of them were carrying a wounded comrade, while a 4th soldier exited the building to assist them. The video clearly showed that they were neither hiding nor ducking, suggesting they did not perceive any threat nearby. This indicates that the AFU is not just absent from the residential areas, but also from the eastern outskirts of the industrial zone. Currently, Russian forces have regrouped and are preparing for the final battle for Kurakhove's last sector, the industrial zone. Once it is captured, the city will come entirely under Russian control. Simultaneously, there is movement further south. Russian forces have advanced 3 kilometers toward the wastewater treatment facilities. Their main objective in this area is to bypass AFU positions in the Kurakhove industrial zone and block their exit from the city. Additionally, near the village of Zelenivka and the settlement of Rozliv, Russian forces have advanced nearly 4 kilometers. To be honest, sometimes I don't understand the alternate reality some people live in, especially those who leave comments on YouTube claiming that the Russian army is advancing at a rate of 100 meters per week. That may have been true at the start of 2023, but it's now the end of 2024, and the pace of advance is measured in kilometers per day. Anyway, there are just over 3 kilometers left to reach Rozliv. Once the forces reach the settlement, the entire area south of Maximivka, Yasna Polyana and Rozdolna will fall under fire control from both the south and the north. This will force the AFU to withdraw westward from this pocket, transferring a large area, approximately 35 square kilometers, under Russian control, onto the Pokrovsk or pre-Dnipropetrovsk directions. The AFU has acknowledged the loss of Ukrainka and Nova Yelenivka, as well as the beginning of battles for Nova Yelizavetivka. Fighting began yesterday evening, and as of this morning, the easternmost part of the village has come under Russian control, with battles continuing. Clearly, the AFU will not surrender the village easily. Once Nova Yelizavetivka is captured, only 2 small villages and 1 defensive line will separate Russian forces from the Dnipropetrovsk region. Fighting is currently focused on this defensive line. If it is breached, there will be no additional defensive lines for the next 8 kilometers, allowing Russian forces to quickly reach the Dnipropetrovsk region border. In the Pokrovsk direction, fighting continues around Novovasilivka. Progress has been difficult, but advances have been noted near the village of Pishchane and within Pishchane itself, where Russian forces have reached and occupied the industrial zone. This development prevents Ukrainian forces from launching counterattacks from this area, as they did a couple of weeks ago, and enables Russian forces to secure further advancements near the settlement of Volchye. Sustainable control of Volchye, in turn, will allow Russian forces to outflank AFU fortifications in Zverov and advance toward Kotlin. Chasiv Yar direction, as of December 29th. Fierce fighting continues around Chasiv Yar. Ukrainian forces are desperately trying to retain control of the city center and have entrenched themselves in the main workshop of the refractory plant. Meanwhile, Russian forces are systematically pushing them out of the Seveny micro-district, effectively flanking Ukrainian forces in the area. As of now, Ukrainian forces have been expelled from the Seveny micro-district. That's all I have for today's Frontline updates.